Welcome to The Record Show, your virtual spin around the vinyl industry. Brought to you by Radio Wasteland Records. Yes, Midland has a record store. Here's your host, Jim Gleason.
Greetings from the Wasteland and welcome to another edition of The Record Show. Hard to believe it's February already, but here we are. So coming up on today's show, we'll check in again with Ken Norton. He's back, and he'll be covering all of this week's new releases, and holy cow, are there a lot of them to kick this month off. And we'll take a closer look at a couple of products meant to keep your turntable stylus clean and working properly. But first, there was an interesting article a couple of weeks back from a gentleman by the name of Ted Gioia. And he wrote this article in The Atlantic and posted it also on his Substack, and it's entitled, "Is Old Music Killing New Music?" This is a fascinating article that's taking a look at new trends in the music industry. We can take this a little bit further and begin to wonder whether or not the vinyl resurgence has anything to do with this. But the push of this article is that Gioia says that old songs now represent 70% of the U.S. music market. And he says that even worse for the industry, the new music market is actually shrinking. Now, he bases this article on the information presented by a firm called MRC Data. This is a music analytics firm, and it goes quite in depth as far as showing what the shares are as far as the age of a catalog or music versus the sales or downloads or even streaming of that music. He goes on to say that the 200 most popular new tracks now regularly account for less than 5% of total online streams. And that rate was twice as high just 3 years ago. So for purposes of the study, MRC classified anything released in the past 18 months as new music. So theoretically, people could be listening to a lot of 2.5-year-old songs rather than 50 to 60-year-old ones. But the author doubts that. It's the newer music, and he points to the decline in viewership of the Grammys as evidence of this. He also points to a series of trends that could be a contributing factor. These include the leading area of investment in the music business has been in old songs. Look no further than the sale of a lot of these older artists' catalogs for millions and millions of dollars. He goes on to say that the song catalogs in most demand are by musicians who are in their 70s or 80s, again, like Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen, and even recently deceased stars like James Brown and David Bowie. Another trend is that major record labels are participating in the rush to produce old music. Universal, Sony, Warner, they're buying up publishing catalogs and investing huge sums of money in these older songs. The author says in previous times that money would be going to the production and development of newer artists. And here's one of the trends that I'm actually pretty cool with, and that's the best-selling physical format in music is now the vinyl LP. The author has seen no signs that the record labels are investing in anything newer or a better alternative because here too, old is viewed as superior to new. Go back to any of these arguments about how people like the sound of vinyl better than digital, or at least different than digital. Here's another big one for us at least. Record stores are caught up in that same time warp. In an earlier era, they would market new music. We do that here. We're going to be talking with Ken shortly about new music. But now they make more money from vinyl reissues and used LPs, and I will absolutely attest to that. The demand for reissue vinyl is so great that we have a lot of trouble keeping that on the shelves. Look back over the past year or two, and something like Fleetwood Mac Rumors has far outsold, as far as sheer numbers go, anything newly released, with the exception of maybe one or two artists here and there, in our little store at least. One final trend that the author points to in this is that the resurrection of long-dead rock stars in the form of holograms or deep fake videos. He says all of this is making it harder for new and younger artists to compete in an ever more competitive marketplace. We'll post a link to Ted Giola's full article in the description below, but I'd like to hear what you think. Is it possible for newer artists to break through in the way that they need to when they have to compete with older music? And which do you prefer? Looking for newer stuff, or do you prefer finding that vintage copy or a good solid reissue of an older song that you have loved for many, many years? Let me know in the comments below. Very curious to hear your opinions on this. Joining us now on the Record Show, we're pleased to welcome back Ken Norton from Ingram Entertainment. Ken, welcome back. We've missed you, and I know things have been busy, and they seem to only be getting busier.
Oh, you bet, Jim. Good to be here. Great to see you. And yeah, busy, but that's a good thing to have.
It is. Hey, before we get to the new releases this week, and there are a lot of them, I wanted to talk about this article that showed up in the Atlantic and on Substack about new music being outsold by older titles. Have you had a chance to look at this? And I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Sure did. Yeah, it was a good article, and the gentleman comes to his own conclusions about the reasons why and where we're going with that. And I won't necessarily comment on uh, predictions, but we do notice exactly the same thing that, particularly on vinyl, people have been gravitating towards catalog. We call it catalog anything that's not a new release. uh, Particularly classic rock, but it's not confined to classic rock. It's also jazz. It's also R&B and hip hop that's not exactly brand new. Uh, and we're seeing this like we had our bestsellers at Ingram last year. Looking at the top 10, several of those were catalog. The only new release, only two new releases in the top, let's see, 20 were a Taylor Swift title and the Adele. Everything else was catalog. Fleetwood Mac Rumors and
Wow.
Nirvana Nevermind and Kanye West College Dropout, Dark Side of the Moon. Um, oh, let's see what else here. Mac Miller Circles. I mean, that's not classic rock, but you see what I mean. That's what we see sell all the time. It's very consistent that there's people looking for those things on vinyl, and to some degree, we feel like it's the things that people already realize that they want to listen to repeatedly and want to own.
Like comfort food, you're always kind of going back to that dark side when you're feeling a little snowed in or something along those lines. It's nice to listen to that old stuff that you're familiar with.
Sure, sure, sure. I mean, I also love to have new things myself, new and old, both.
Yep.
You get tired of the old, you need some new. But occasionally, like you say, the comfort of something that you already know that you love and pop that on can be very rewarding.
Now you mentioned the two artists that broke into the top sellers with new vinyl, and oddly enough, both of those, Taylor Swift and Adele, were pointed to as not the cause, but a contributing factor to a lot of delays in the pressing of vinyl itself. And I know that this has had a big effect on the pressing of reissues, which apparently are in very, very high demand. But it also kind of pushes back on the ability for new artists when you've got these big money makers churning out more vinyl to get theirs done in a timely fashion. I think that's all kind of a contributing factor to just a larger problem elsewhere.
Yeah, it's likely. I mean, there's a lot been written about that, and I don't know all the facts, but
Yeah.
certainly to manufacture as much Adele as they needed to, they had to hold the presses for other titles.
Hmm. Well, we're going to keep watching this. It's a very interesting article. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to put a link to that full article for folks to read. And my collection is made up of a few new things, but predominantly older stuff. And being on the record store side of things, I will attest to a lot of the things mentioned in the article that even pre-owned vinyl, the vintage vinyl and well-loved vinyl, as we call it, does a great deal of sales. And I want to say that it almost equals monetarily the sales of new, but it far outpaces the numbers. And that's typically because you can find used records for $2, $3, $4, $5 as opposed to the cost of a new record. So
Sure.
monetarily, I think from our perspective, it's a lot of even, but numbers wise, old truly outsells new.
Yeah, I see exactly what you mean. Of course, we don't sell used, but
Yep.
almost all my customers do. So,
Well, speaking of new, let's get on to this. This first week of February has a lot of reissues in it, doesn't it? But it's also got some really cool stuff. Can you give us the highlights of this week's new releases?
sure. So we're talking old. Let's continue with some of that. So Prince, the estate has negotiated a deal with Sony Music. So Sony is now reissuing the classic Prince albums, and or a lot of them anyway. Not every single one
Yeah.
of them so far, but right now we've got coming this week. We've got Sign of the Times, 1999, the Prince self-titled. Uh, for You, Dirty Mind, Controversy, and Around the World in a Day. All those coming out this week on vinyl. Um, and the Goo Goo Dolls, a best of, a greatest hits volume 1 coming out this week. We've got a Bob Marley title. There's never a shortage of new colors available for some of the Bob Marley reissues. This one's on yellow and red haze. It's the Soul Rebels dub record, which is, I think, very early stuff. And let's see here. Okay, and then now let's move on to some new things, some of them by artists that have been around for quite some time. Saxon, been around quite some time. They have a brand new album. It's called Carpe Diem. That's coming out this week. I've got a new one from the Dead Milkmen. It's a 6-song EP. They've been around for a minute.
Happy to hear about that too. They're fun.
Definitely give you a little bit of a, if you're not feeling too serious, that might be a good one to reach for. Let's see. Also, newer artists, Poppy, a female metal artist that has become pretty well renowned. She has a new one that's on vinyl now. Bastille have a new one that's available as a regular LP on black vinyl, or also an indie exclusive, which is on translucent orange. Big Thief, new album, double LP, coming out this week. See, Hicks tape. Okay, this is interesting. So if you're not familiar with it, it's been available previously, but now on vinyl. It's called the Ultimate Country Mixtape. And this guy who puts it together, pulls together a lot of the bigger names in country music, and they do a bunch of new material, kind of collaborate and fool around a bit. It's supposed to be fun.
Now, my wife is a much bigger country fan than I am. I'm learning a little bit, and I showed those to her, the Hicks tape Volume 1 and Volume 2, and she basically said it is about as redneck, beer drinking, truck driving country music, the newer stuff, as you can get with those. So it should be fun.
Yeah, it probably is. I haven't heard it, can't swear to it, but there's Volume 1's on orange vinyl and Volume 2's on clear.
Okay.
And let's see. Oh, one classic rocker, how could I miss this one, that I forgot to mention as a reissue. Paul McCartney and Wings, their Wildlife album, is issued this week for independent stores only on a 50th anniversary version, which is a half-speed master. So you audiophiles and McCartney heads, take note.
Okay, that is there is no shortage in that batch coming out this week, especially if you are a Prince fan. I got to tell you that when I saw that list scrolling by for this week, I'm like, holy cow, there's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. But that does make sense that if you're going to kick that catalog out, the back catalog especially, to a major label, there's going to be some reissues.
Oh yeah, and the good side of that is that it's widely available again. Sometimes there's some holes in the supply chain on those. Those should be in good shape for a little bit.
So Prince fans, take heart. Your week has come. So cool. All right, Ken, well, thank you very much for both the highlights of this week's new releases and your insight on that. We do like it when new vinyl sells. We like it when reissues sell as well, but anything really to get vinyl out onto the tables of everybody, I think, is a win-win for all of us.
Agreed.
All right. You have a good week, sir, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
If you watch other content on the Radio Wasteland Records channel, thank you for that, by the way. If not, please hit that subscribe button. But if you do watch some of the other content, you probably noticed that on Saturday mornings, we do a live update here in our store, talking about some of the activities we've got going on. We cover some of the new releases that we have coming in, and we talk about some of the accessory products that we have on hand to sell to our customers. We had a comment in a recent one of those updates asking if we could do a demonstration of some of the products that we sell, and I thought that is a great idea. We should probably really do that. Here in our store, we carry the Groove Washer line of products for stylus cleaning and keeping the static and dust off of our records. I should mention that they are not a sponsor of our channel in any way. I just like to stand by these products, and they're made in the US. The Groove Washer brushes, by the way, replace those old disc washers in the D4, which are now made in China and have kind of really slipped in quality. But these things are nice. But included in on the Groove Washer product line is a small stylus brush and some SC1 Stylus cleaning fluid. Now, it's very important to keep the stylus of your turntable very, very clean, as clean as possible. If a record is dirty or it has a little static electricity, especially during the wintertime, the needle will pick up dust and particles and kind of gather that into the grooves. Not only is this bad for your stylus, it could actually end up damaging your records as well. We're investing a lot of money in both the turntables, the cartridges, and the stylus, and the records, so you want to keep these things as clean as possible. Now, with the brush system, basically all you do is put a little bit of liquid on the brush, and then under your stylus, you want to go back to front to keep that clean and to keep that static down and to pull the dust particles off. Now, there are a lot of other products that do exactly what the Groove Washer brush and stylus cleaning fluid do. One of them, and we just started carrying these in the store, is by Audio-Technica, and it's a sticky pad cartridge stylus cleaner. Now, we've had products like this in the store before. Essentially, it is just a small little pad of gel that you place on your turntable platter and dip your stylus into. Now, you have to be very, very careful when using these, just like you are with the brush, that the motion you use in cleaning is just up and down. Once the stylus is in the gel, you do not want to move that side to side because that'll mess with the integrity of the stylus in its position. Now, the same can be said with the brush. You have to take extreme caution in making sure that you're just doing that back to front motion, and in no way, shape, or form are you messing with that stylus side to side. So as far as the pros and cons of both the brush and the pad system that we have here in the store, I would have to give the edge to the brush. It's easy, it's quick, you can get in there and clean that off, and it lasts a long time. Now, the gels are nice because they do a nice job of cleaning the sides of the needle and very, very cleanly in there, but they end up wearing out after a while. Now, it is reusable, you can wash it off, and it will go for quite some time, but after a while, the gel will lose its tackiness, and the tacky pads are a little bit more expensive than the brush systems. This one coming in at $34, our list price, versus $16 for the brush and liquid. And then you can always buy refillable liquid on this. So either way, I think works better. I used to use a gel similar to the Audio-Technica for quite some time, but it wore out after 3 or 4 months of use. And you could wash it, but it just loses its tackiness. And the price point on that, I think the one that we had was around $40 or $50 versus the $34 version from Audio-Technica. Yes, it's a good investment to have if you prefer this, but for quick, down and dirty, as long as you're careful, I think the brush does just as well. And finally today, we've got time for a quick spin from the wasteland. And I apologize for not getting to this sooner. It's been out for a couple of weeks, but things have been a little busy here at the store. Speaking, of course, of our good friend Brett Mitchell and his new album, For the Most Part. Available for a while now, digitally, but on vinyl as of January. Now, we did an interview with Brett on a previous episode of The Record Show. If you get a chance, back up and check that out. He is a great, great Michigan singer and songwriter. And his new album, they've been waiting and working on this for a long time, is out in stores and available on his website, brettmitchellmusic.com. Check it out, though. Brett did a great job, and Jan did a great job putting this together. It comes on Coke bottle clear vinyl with really cool labels, and it's chock full of great, great indie stuff from Brett. So if you get a chance, it's called For the Most Part, new stuff from Brett Mitchell. Here it is. Have a quick listen, and we'll talk to you next time from the Wasteland.
Maybe we don't see eye to eye, but I sure don't plan to give up. Even if we're at different heights, eventually the road won't be this rough. And if we can both hold on this long, then what's another few round? You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, round, 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 round.
Thanks for watching The Record Show. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. And be sure to hit that notifications bell so you'll be alerted every time we upload new content.